Ladies and gentlemen, for the last year I have been exposing what I have observed as the broken, inept, incompetent and incomprehensible family court system. This has recently culminated in what I believe to be the two most important family court vlogs you will ever see. The first is the 6 silver bullets of hate. The 6 tactics that resident parents may use to throw their ex under the family court bus before an application is ever made by the non-resident parent, who are mostly fathers. The second is, of course, the vlog called Why the Family Court is So Terrifying, the Blueprint of Hate. This sensational video exposes how the family court can be easily manipulated by resident parents, mostly mothers, and their all too often sick in the head family lawyers to minimise, reduce, restrict or deny child contact with the non-resident parent, who again are mostly fathers. My approach has naturally reached a point where it now needs to start taking a change of direction. We know the issues, we understand the problems, but the question is, what can we now do to take a stand and say enough is enough? Let's examine that question with rational logic rather than emotion. If there exists a blueprint of hate that any vindictive, vengeful, hateful, emotionally challenged and irrationally anxious resident parent can use to manipulate the family court and judges from Planet Stupid to destroy relationships between their ex and their children, then surely there must be a blueprint of light, a set of actions that non-resident parents can take to neutralise or at least reduce the damage of the 6 silver bullets and the blueprint of hate. Today I am going to start that discussion in a way that has never been done before. How we can unite to challenge and change the family court from the inside as family court service users, as non-resident parents, as the mostly fathers who are being thrown under the family court bus. But before I do, I simply must run my excellent introduction. I am Philip Kedge, a retired police chief inspector, the director of the Mckenzie Friend UK network, founder of the national campaign of #LikeNotHate and fearless family court vlogger. In all my vlogs, my views and opinions are entirely my own. Let me start with what I believe. 20% of family court child arrangement cases don't have allegations of abuse. We know that because the invisible president of the family court, Mr. Dressy Uppy himself, Sir Andrew McFarlane, tells us that. Secondly, from my own extensive experience, I estimate that in 20% of cases there are indeed serious and significant issues around abhorrent domestic abuse that of course require significant safeguarding and protective factors. So that leaves the remaining 60% of family court cases, and from what I observe, these are made up of parents who are mostly the resident parent, the mothers, motivated by revenge, hurt feelings, unfettered emotions and irrational anxieties, making spurious allegations based on hate, often weaponising the children against the non-resident parents who are mostly fathers to minimise, reduce, restrict or deny child contact. Spurious allegations, where the mother drags up every unfortunate incident or behaviour that may happen in most relationships and then throws that mud at their ex, hoping that as much of it as possible will stick, which invariably, in the hands of judges from Planet Stupid, it does, and contact between loving fathers and children can be destroyed for months and months on end. Now let me be crystal clear. My vlogs are targeted only in relation to what I see as these vast majority of cases motivated by hate, with spurious allegations and children being weaponised. Nothing is in relation to the cases involving real victims of abhorrent abuse that we all reasonably understand. With that cleared up, let's get into the nuts and bolts. In my ever-growing mailbag, I have been asked many times, Phil, why don't you organise people to glue themselves to the doors of their local courts and take part in disruptive protests? Well, let me give you my answer. I don't agree with disruptive protests in the context of challenging and changing the family court. It won't change anything. It's like throwing pebbles at a tank and will only alienate those who we need to win over. My view is that it is far better to get inside the tank and take back control of it. And to do that, we have to engage brains and take a path of like not hate, which is about appropriately challenging and changing the family court from the inside. So, what does that mean? The first step to challenging and changing the family court from the inside is to empower ourselves by studying and understanding the family court processes and procedures from the perspective of the non-resident parent. By taking the time to study and learn the system from that unique perspective, we can then understand its strengths and weaknesses, and to then strategically and tactically turn those into our advantage. As I explained in the vlog why the family court is so terrifying, the blueprint of hate, that is exactly what I see mothers and their all too often sick in their head family lawyers are doing themselves. I observe them cynically exploiting and manipulating the system to throw their ex under the family court bus, and they have become so proficient at doing it that it works almost every time. So, fathers perhaps need to start mirroring that approach, to turn the processes and procedures back on the family court, to put pressure on the many judges from Planet Stupid, to start taking a new approach when it comes to spurious allegations based on hate. Ladies and gentlemen, this has never been done before as a campaign. By understanding the weaknesses in the system from the perspective of the non-resident parent, we can then appropriately and legitimately turn the system back onto itself in a way that has never been considered before. Now, when I say appropriately and legitimately, it has to be appropriate and legitimate. I am not suggesting trying to simply disrupt the system for disruption's sake. That won't work because judges will just come down hard and the other side will only respond by seeking costs. What I am talking about is challenging the family court in a way that is completely justified in defending oneself against spurious allegations based on hate, but will place its own legitimate demands on the courts, no doubt giving judges a real headache whilst forcing them to manage cases differently. The current status quo of mothers simply making spurious allegations, judges jumping on practice directives 12J and totally mismanaging that procedure with a complete lack of common sense needs to be changed. Now, I have been familiar with the family court processes, the system and its procedures for over 10 years and have especially studied it in detail over the last 2 years with what I observe as the total carnage being caused by the ill-considered and quite simply unfit for purpose Domestic Abuse Act of 2021, which has turned the family court into nothing short of a cesspit of hate and a Mad Hatter's Tea Party, completely devoid of all common sense and any understanding of the realities of life, with the ups and downs of relationships and the significant parenting pressures that most of us may at some point experience. And then, of course, as part of the family court machine of hate, we have the all too often totally unnecessary and pointless sick in the head family lawyers, stirring the pot of acrimony and conflict, frequently leaving vulnerable people in crippling financial debt. Family lawyers who are like vultures feeding off the carcasses of people's broken relationships, and who have absolutely no professional duty of care to any child. How disgraceful is that? So, what is my new plan? I really wish that at this point I could simply publish a single vlog explaining the blueprint of light. If only it was that simple. Unfortunately, that doesn't yet exist, but may be developed. However, over the next few months, I will continue to explain the broken system, whilst at the same time discussing strategic and tactical options on how non-resident parents, the mostly fathers, can perhaps start to take a stand against spurious allegations of hate and the totally destructive mismanagement of those cases by the family court. So, how can you identify these new style of vlogs with their strategic and tactical approaches for discussion? Well, I have made it easy for you. You will see in the thumbnail picture and during the introduction this symbol, what I am calling the shield of light, not hate. So when you see the shield of light, not hate, that means it is a strategic and tactical video aimed at supporting non-resident parents who are faced with vindictive, vengeful and resentful resident parents making spurious allegations intended to minimise, reduce, restrict and deny child contact. Ladies and gentlemen, enough really is enough. So join me on this journey. It's time to stop burying our heads in the sand and to wake up to the realities of what may happen when you make an application to the broken, inept, incompetent and incomprehensible family court system. You have to get ahead of the game, because you never know when it may be the last time you get to embrace, cuddle, kiss your children and to tell them that you love them for months and months on end. Now, if any of this vlog resonates with you, or you are thinking about making an application to the family court and would like a one-to-one case review with myself, or perhaps you would like to find a trusted independent Mckenzie friend to support you, or you may even want to empower yourself with my family court training modules, then please contact me right now at contactphil.co.uk, your one-stop solutions-based approach for all your family court needs. Until next time, stay strong.